What's going on, people? Tim Blast here. This is BlastCast episode 8 with my friend Aurelie here. And, Aurelie, why don't you tell us what do you do and, where you come from and, like, a little bit about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a composer for stage and screen. As you might be able to tell, I am originally from England. But these days I'm based between New York and England, which has been really great. It's, I think it's very fulfilling to soak up the cultures from two different places.
Yeah.
But yeah, just making it work in film scoring mostly, but branching out into live performance as well.
Yeah, which is really interesting. Yeah, I've seen your Instagram. So you do compose music for stage, so for like operas or what is it?
No, so I started off, I started in theater, but actually recently it's gotten more into contemporary dance.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, which is something that I hadn't massively considered before.
Yeah.
Just because I don't think it's that mainstream, I suppose.
Well, it is quite interesting. Yeah. So how do you approach that? Like, what's the? Because I know I'm pretty sure it's much more different from composing for a film, right? Where it's like a set picture. Like, how do you compose a dance? Like, how do you make music for a dance?
Well, I found that there are actually quite a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's so collaborative, but in a different way to film, I think. So with film, you'll more often than not, you'll have picture lock and you'll come in pretty much towards the end of the project. But with choreography, they like to, they get you in at the begining. Nice, yeah. So you see this thing just growing from the ground up, which is really incredible. But there are similarities because, film moves in a certain way. And I think it's, watching those shapes and different things just move around the space is similar. So I think both of those parts of my life sort of feed together as well, which is useful.
That's really interesting. That's actually really cool. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, do it. It's great.
Nice. Let's see. Did you actually go to school for, to become a composer, or are you self-taught? School?
I did, yeah. So I did an undergrad in sort of classical composition, and musicology as well. And I was really into that for a while and specialized in Soviet film musicology.
Oh, nice.
Which is sort of a rabbit hole I won't go into because it's sort of weird and fascinating.
It is fascinating. I mean, I'm actually from Russia originally, so I grew up with Soviet music. Yeah.
That it's so fascinating. The different ways that politics, feeds into it. It's great. And but yeah. So then afterwards, I did do a master's in screen composition. And I did that at NYU, which is what originally brought me to New York.
Yeah. So what do you think? So how many films have you worked on so far?
Interesting. Probably about 15.
Okay.
But mainly short films.
Short films. What do you think? Yeah. So are most of the films made in US or in UK, or like are you in?
It's a big sort of a mix, I suppose, because I started out. I've been doing it for about 5 years, I would say.
Okay. Yeah.
So I started out in England, but I think what's great about England is it's sort of, well, I mean, in the same way that New York is, but it's very multicultural.
Yeah.
But so I had the opportunity to work with a lot of European filmmakers, which was great. But then when I went to America, I sort of had the opportunity to work with, I guess, other people from that sort of side of the world.
Yeah.
I know a few Chinese people and Brazilian, and so I've been very lucky to sort of have the input of lots of different backgrounds, which has been really great.
Interesting. So I know how so I'm in LA, right? So most of the filmmakers, they move really quick, and sometimes when I get hired on like the last week of production. Well, not in production, like before the release date. Does that ever happen to you? Yeah.
Yeah, that's happened to me a couple of times, but sort of in different time frames. So I scored a film, and I think I was given 2 days to do it. And obviously, when we say, to do it, that's, sketching, orchestrating, producing, recording, maybe mixing. So it's a heck of a lot to get done.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
Right. But it's kind of, I wouldn't do it all the time because that just, it's not healthy. But it is kind of interesting as well to see, what we can all do as practiced composers, if we're given a very small time frame and they just say, go and see what you can do.
Yeah. The funny thing is, like, when people do that to me, I usually work faster and better. Even like I make better music for some reason. I don't know if I'm a procrastinator by nature, but I don't know what it is. It's just like when people push you to the limit like that, you just do better work in a way.
Absolutely.
But sometimes, it's stressful, and then you can't really sleep, and it's it's always funny when people are like, "Hey, composing is easy, right? Like you can just write, 30 minutes of music in a day." I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super easy.
Yeah, it's super easy. Yeah, not stressful at all. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But you probably shouldn't let the filmmakers hear you when you say that you work better under pressure, because then they'll hold you to it.
Yeah, trust me, I've done that mistake way too many times.
Haven't we all?
Yeah, but I mean, everybody knows here that, like, to push me to the limit and stuff, and but I mean, it is what it is. It's kind of like feast or famine, right? Anyway, so since there's not a lot of work right now, it's I mean, I'll take anything in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. There's COVID-19 happening, right? So LA is all shut down. There's nothing being produced. I mean, there's barely any movies being made right now. So what is it like in England right now? Like, are people producing stuff still, or no?
I mean, it's pretty much the same. Yeah, it's sort of interesting because things are starting up again, definitely.
Yeah.
I was sort of, actually, I think the majority of my films that is at the moment are mostly based in America. Okay. But I had one feature that I was scheduled to do, and we were going to start on it. We were shooting sort of between June and July of this year.
Yeah.
And then obviously COVID, and it's now been pushed back by 3 years. So it's sort of strange now to think that we're just really thinking in the long run now. But yeah, I mean, I've heard, some pretty big blockbuster features, like the new Batman is being filmed here.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that they've started production again, but I think they're just being, really, really careful.
Well,
it's kind of stopping and starting.
Yeah, it's moving a lot slower now.
Yeah,
for me, it was the same. I was supposed to score this TV show in when was it? Yeah, in August, I believe. Yeah, so we were talking about it in March, and then COVID happened. They're like, okay, so we're shooting, and then April, May, June, and they're like, you know what? We're just gonna like postpone for and nobody really knows when it's gonna come back. I'm like, oh, okay, fine.
It's so tough, isn't it? But I think it's sort of interesting, but seeing what's filled that gap as well.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've seen this in LA, but I think in England I've seen a lot of animation really blooming.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, which is cool. So I think at the end of this year it'll be interesting to see how many animators have really come into their stride, but also how many animated films we're going to get, which I think will be nice. It'll be nice kind of taking that sidestep for a little bit.
Yeah, and there's actually more video games being produced too right now. Like
true.
I got a chance to score 3 video games in like the when COVID, since the COVID started. So I mean, I don't know, it's kind of cool. It's the world is definitely changing. It's hard to say if it's a good way or bad way, but yeah, it's definitely changing, and everybody has to adjust to it in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's see. So, all right. So you work mostly with people in New York then? Like, do you have any plans to actually move to America sometime, or are you gonna do it like remotely?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been living in New York for going on 2.5 years. And actually the main reason I'm back here in England is because of COVID.
Oh, because of COVID. Oh, okay. Gotcha,
but I'm definitely going to be planning to go back. I think New York is such an interesting place for film and music. You get a different flavor than the LA scene. But yeah, I really enjoy working there, and I think there's a great film music community there as well.
Really?
It's really, I mean, I suppose because NYU is there, and I think Juilliard has a film scoring program maybe as well. So
maybe
I'm not sure, or something like that. But I think it's nice. There are quite a lot of sort of emerging composers from the area, so it's nice to collaborate and feed off each other and inspire each other.
Oh yeah. That's pretty much why I started this podcast too, just so I can talk to filmmakers, because it's always nice to talk to people in your industry. Even though, like I live in LA, and it's, everywhere you go, it's pretty much every third person is doing something in film or trying to do something in film. But it's still nice to talk to people who actually work in it, Let's see, what do we want to talk about? Okay, what's your favorite DAW?
Logic.
Logic.
Definitely
So you're a Mac user.
I love technology and all the toys, but definitely at the moment I'm definitely of the mindset of sort of making it as easy as possible so that I can move on to, I guess, more important stuff. But yeah, I really just love, and I think especially because I travel between England and New York as well, it's just nice being able to kind of sit down with my MIDI controller, open up the laptop, and just go, but you know what, I've heard such good things about other DAWs that are becoming more popular. So I think I'd love to carve out a little bit of time and sort of explore those more as well.
Well, I use Cubase for all of my things, and also Pro Tools if they need me to send stems. So sometimes I would do because a lot of times here in LA actually, a lot of bigger companies, like Universal and Paramount, they always want stems to be in Pro Tools. Like they want an actual Pro Tools project, which is which is a very interesting thing to do, to be honest. But because I feel like when you were an audio, when you were the audio engineer for the film, you should be able to just take the WAV, what do you call them? WAV files.
Yeah, the WAV, yeah.
WAV, yeah, there you go. That's a weird word to pronounce now that I'm thinking about it. WAV.
I know, so many small words.
I know. Yeah, it's like they should be able to do, but for some reason they always want the project to be in Pro Tools, and I had to recently learn how to use Pro Tools, and it's so weird how that's like this industry standard, but also at the same time it's so outdated in a way.
Yeah,
absolutely. Logic, Cubase, Reason, Digital Performer, they're so much more modern and fluid, but Pro Tools is so rigid in a way. It's like an old man just trying to stay in a game.
That's a good comparison. Yeah. It is like that, but I guess it's because it's used for so many different things.
And it's been used for so many years.
Yeah, exactly. And, people are just used to it, I suppose. But I do agree, because I started off composing in Pro Tools, actually.
Yeah.
Before I moved on to Logic. And it sort of, I know quite a lot of. Well, I've heard of big TV composers using it as their main DAW, but I can understand getting into the swing of it. But yeah, I just love some of the others because they're so sleek and
yeah, they're like more modern.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, easier to use too. Do you work off a template or okay, let's talk about actually this about Midi Mockups, right? So I mean, obviously all of the composers are there. We all have to start with Midi Mockups. Yeah. Unless you're super lucky and they just, give you an orchestra right away. But that rarely happens.
That happens all the time.
I know, right? That happens all the time, boys. Yeah. So let's talk about Midi Mockups. Do you have like a template you use, or like how do you start working on a project? Like, do you open like a new project, or do you start with a template?
I actually start with a new project every time. And I think in the last year, actually, I've been starting to think maybe I would be saving myself some time with templates. But honestly, I sort of like that blank space, and the fresh start every time. Yeah. I've in the past used templates, but I think I find them a little bit restrictive. I'll have one, I'll create one from scratch for a project, and then I'll carry that over to other cues for the same project.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like just sort of getting the gig, talking it through, opening up a completely fresh project, and then, just like building it from there, taking things out. Yeah. I suppose it's down to personal preference at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's always, it's kind of like a 50-50. Like most of the composers I talk to are either, like me with like a big templates that, just you can scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll to look for, or like, like you, where you start from, fresh basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I like both ways, to be honest. I've done it with big templates. Well, now I have like a huge template with I think 2000 something MIDI instances, whatever. Yeah, because I have like a server computer and then the main computer, and they just feed off each other, and it's a whole mess there, to be honest. But yeah, but I worked on a video game where they wanted me to score. They wanted me to make a 8-bit score for them. And I had nothing 8-bit in my template. So I did start a new project, and it actually felt really refreshing. Like, it actually feels nice when you, like, start a project and it's all fresh and you just add things and, instead of just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So I don't know. I mean, I'm still sticking up, with my big template, but I might switch it up a little bit sometimes, I feel like, from now on.
Yeah, because I think you get benefits from both ways of doing it, don't you?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think especially if you've got a lot of projects on the roster, templates are just so great. You know that you're going to wake up and you can just click something and it's all there. Whereas you've got your 2000 track template, and then I'm there kind of laboriously dragging everything in, and so I guess it's sort of. Yeah, definitely pros and cons to
there's definitely
both ways of doing it, I guess. Yeah.
That's kind of the reason why I made a big template. So if I get hired and then they're like, okay, we need 35 music in 5 days, I'm like, okay, got you. Like, so I can just like jump in and
you can do it.
Yeah. Okay, so you worked with orchestras too, right?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So what is that experience? Because I only worked with how many? I worked with orchestras for only 3 films so far, and it was really, I mean, since I'm not really classically trained, it was kind of hard for me to even talk to the musicians in an orchestra, because I mean, I was using an orchestrator, and I was just telling him like, okay, this is what I want, and you do the thing, because I have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
But since you're classically trained, like, what's your experience with orchestras for film? Like,
I really enjoy it, actually. I mean, I'm a cellist as well, so I sort of...
nice.
Yeah, I mean, I played in orchestras all the time growing up. And actually, that was, in a way, a big introduction to film music. We played Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, and the orchestra, nice. And that was great. But yeah, it's been interesting because actually I think it's been two orchestras that I've recorded with. No, sorry, three orchestras. Two of them have been remote. Okay. Partly due to COVID, and then once it was sort of an exercise, and we were calling up Prague.
Okay, yeah.
But it was interesting. I mean, I'm definitely I really enjoy talking to the orchestra. I mean, I think depending on the time you have, I think it's really nice to be able to, you know, I suppose calm it down in a way and just make it, you know, personable and enjoyable as well as a working experience. But yeah, I was really lucky. I had this fantastic experience recording a full orchestra with a Sydney-based orchestra.
Oh, nice.
And it was sort of bizarre because I was in this room and I'm currently sort of hunkering down with my family in England because I'm in between places. So I'm in the childhood family home, and Sydney was something like, I'm not sure, 10 hours ahead of where I am. So I was sitting in kind of my childhood room at 3 a.m, calling an orchestra in Australia, which was very, very weird. But yeah, it's good. I mean, I wouldn't say, you know, I always want to continue learning, you know, more orchestration. I think.
Oh yeah.
Maybe if I reach the point of, you know, Howard Shore mastery, then I can rest. But I mean, come on, I think it's such a, you know, never-ending, wonderful resource, I suppose.
Oh yeah, it definitely is, and it's always nice to hear your score with a real orchestra. I don't know, it gives me so much joy every time. You know, since I only work with 3 orchestras, I don't know, every single time I was just sitting there, I'm like, oh, yeah, you know, I was just so excited. Like, that's my music right there,
it's
being
great.
played by 60 people.
Yeah,
it's always good.
It is fantastic.
But then it's also so stressful, to be honest. Because, you know, you're sitting in a room and there's, you know, 3 engineers and everybody's like pressured in a way, and you have to move quick because, you know, they charge per hour, and you know, like you have to record the whole score in like 3 hours or 4 hours, you know. But yeah, it's definitely fulfilling, and I always say that, you know how technology is moving really fast and libraries are actually sounding good, and not a lot of people use orchestras anymore, and actually. Not a lot of production companies even want to give you budget for real orchestras because they're like, you can make it sound good. You know, it's good enough. But I really wish that orchestras are not going to go away, you know, because it kind of seems like it, you know, less and less people are actually, you know, being able to use orchestras. And, you know, if you think about it, you know, 10 years ago, the libraries were okay. And then people were like, okay, let's, you know, have like a $15,000 budget for orchestra, and you can easily do that. But then now it's nobody really wants to do it because the libraries are so good.
Yeah.
And composers, you know, everybody expects us to sound real, even with Midi Mockups. And sometimes it's kind of hard to explain. You know, I had a conversation with a producer actually a couple months ago where he was like, well, you know, you're a composer, you can make solo, what are we saying? Yeah, solo DG, whatever, Chinese flute to sound real.
Okay.
And I'm like thinking like, okay, where the hell am I gonna get a library for a solo DG flute? So I looked. There is one, I think it was done by ADO, and so I got the library.
Right.
And then it just sounds like, you know, I just can't make it real.
Yeah.
And I tell him, you know, the library is $70. And, you know, there's this like Chinese student somewhere here in LA that can do it for $70 actually. And a producer was just like, not. He's like, well, we don't want to, extend royalties and blah 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 blah. I'm like, oh my god. Yeah. It's just really interesting.
It's a real
yeah, it's kind of yeah.
But you're missing out on the experience of working with another person as well, which is so invaluable. You know, and I think especially with a soloist of any instrument, they're going to know it better than you do, really, because we don't have the capacity or time. I mean, maybe we do, but personally, I am not an expert in every instrument that has ever been created. So I think it's fantastic what we're able to do now with samples.
Yeah.
I don't think that we should rely on them just because we can. I think we're missing out on, the conversation, like you said, with that Chinese student who probably knows a heck of a lot of, background and idiomatic things and, maybe something relevant to the culture, which would really feed into the project.
Yeah.
And you're missing out on that if the team is just asking you to use samples. Always have to, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. Okay, what's your favorite genre of film to score?
Ooh, now I think that's a hard one, actually, because my favorite genre, well, actually, is it probably sci-fi?
Nice.
Yeah, I grew up watching sci-fi. Really, I sort of never expected to love it, and then I watched Alien as a teenager and sort of couldn't stop thinking about it for weeks afterwards. And I think some of those really big orchestral sci-fi scores. But even I suppose the smaller ones, that Mika Levi has been scoring are just so psychological. I suppose they're so interesting, and there's something I love about scoring every genre, I think, but with sci-fi you can just go in absolutely any direction, which is really exciting. So I'll go with sci-fi, I think.
Sci-fi. That's a good genre. I like sci-fi too. I mean, for me, I think it's horror so far, because like with horror too, it's you can make instruments do what they're not supposed to do, and it's always fun for me to figure out different things for different instruments, like different weird noises. Like I did a score for a horror film where I put a microphone in a box, right, like Amazon box, and I would just hit it from outside, and it just would make this boom noise, and I would put a lot of reverb. I don't know, just it's so cool to like make creepy sounds for some reason. Yeah.
No, I agree. That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I like drama as well, just because or like I guess thrillers or like psychological dramas. Like these are usually they kind of go almost as sci-fi in a way where you never really know what you can do with music, and you can kind of go in either direction in a way,
I think you're right. I mean, I suppose with the I really like this where we're getting field recordings, audio recordings of the actors or something, and then mashing it up into some sort of creepy sound design, soundscape. It's so interesting. I agree. I think that idea of sort of taking something normal and just making it do something completely crazy, that's really exciting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Have you let's see, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so you're a cellist, right? So do you record your oh my god, my English. Do you actually? I know it's like 8 o'clock in the morning right now. I'm still
Don't worry.
Do you actually use your cello in your scores? You record yourself live?
I actually don't.
No.
Yeah, which is a shame. I'd like to get back into it. Partly it's because I haven't been traveling with my cello.
I see.
It's sort of a hard one, and
yeah, it's a big one. Yeah,
it's a shame. I play the piano and the accordion as well, and I sometimes think the three instruments that I've chosen. Yeah. They can't go in the overhead locker of a plane, so they're not the most practical, even though I love them. But yeah, I write for cello all the time. I think I pretty much have a cello in, maybe 99% of my scores. But I work with a couple of cellists who are really great, and it's interesting. I think I like having the control over, I don't know, I suppose giving my music to somebody else and then hearing them play and then being able to sort of take a step back from it. I like having the control over that. But at the same time, I would love to be able to, if there's a really quick turnaround, just be able to say, I can just record that myself this afternoon. And I mean, that's so handy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really fascinated with cello. Cello, I think it's like really beautiful. And I ordered a custom cello back in March. It's still being made. It's coming from Italy from, and it's going to be a 5-string cello.
Ooh,
with a low F, so it's kind of like, it's almost like a bass, to be honest. But anyway, it's gonna be, and it's also electric too. So I don't know. I'm going for like weird instruments, definitely.
That's cool.
But yeah, I can't wait to pick it up and maybe try to learn how to play it. Like, I don't know if you can see. Not this way. There's a violin somewhere there.
Oh yeah. Oh, nice. Okay. Oh yeah, you've got your own little trio or duo going on there.
Yeah. So it's I've been trying to learn violin lately, and it's different because I'm a guitar player, and I mean, I kind of play violin off my guitar thinking, like guitar head, and I mean, I don't know, it's quite different, to be honest, and I feel like cello would probably be a little bit easier for me since it's bigger, and actually, I can actually move my fingers more, fluidly, because the violin is like so small, and it's hard for me to even go from one note to another, because it's just it's such a small little distance between notes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I've actually been doing the sort of the opposite, and I've been trying to learn guitar.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's sort of, what? It's so hard. It's really strange. And I thought as well that because I'm a cellist, that I would be able to translate it. But there's something kind of mentally blocking me. And I don't know, I can do, basic chords, and I don't know. I'm really trying to learn it properly and get the proper, finger hold. But it is interesting trying to learn, I think, especially when you're an adult. Yeah. It's a really different process trying to learn a new instrument, and you'd think it would be easier. But it's not.
It's definitely difficult, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I even remember switching to piano. Well, not switching, learning how to play piano. So I started playing guitar when I was 14, I believe, and I kind of learned it kind of quick because I was that nerd that stayed home and played guitar all day. So yeah,
That's good.
that was quick. And then when I started learning how to play piano, I remember it was such a mental block, as you said, right? Like it's just like this mind block.
Yeah.
I kept thinking that, how I put my fingers on the guitar and like the notes are here and here and here, and then on the piano it's just like this, it's all laid out in front of you. And I remember like I had to literally relearn my thinking of how to write music and how to like play music in a way. But like, and same thing, like I'm learning how to play a flute right now.
Oh wow.
Which is going good, and it's completely different instrument too. It's crazy how different it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you want to play the same exact thing on a guitar and then piano and flute, it's just a mind blowing thing. It's just like you can't really think about it, you know. You have to think of them as separate instances, like separate things completely.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's almost like you have to simplify it in your brain, because as soon as you start overthinking, you know, you put up all of these roadblocks. And I think the way you said it as well, the way the piano is laid out in front of you, I think that's the block that I'm having with the guitar. I don't know why, but it's sort of just guitar, it's like that. And
I know it's not really laid out in front of you. It's kind of going like from, I don't even know how to explain it on the guitar, because it goes like up from down to up. I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah.
It's weird, you know. Like for me in my head, you know, I have so when I play guitar, it's more of like I have this like matrix thing that I'm thinking of. So you know. Not the movie reference, but like the mathematical matrix reference, where, you know, you have your usually guitars have 6 strings. I have 9-string guitars, and I think of them as like, you know, like if you look at it, it's like the notes are like bum 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 bum, and then it goes down as well. So I'm thinking of the numbers like how they go on the neck of the guitar. But on the piano, it's laid out, and I'm thinking more of a linear way, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, how you can just go like, you know, like this on the piano.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. And it's I guess everyone approaches it differently, sort of based on the instrument that they started off with as a child as well.
Yeah. Yeah. How old were you when you started playing music?
Fairly young. I started piano lessons pretty young, I think 5 or 6. And
wow, yeah, that is young.
Yeah, and then I asked my parents if I could play the cello when I was 7, I think.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's been a while, but I'm grateful. I mean, my parents were really you know, supportive of the music and sort of insistent. They didn't really have music lessons growing up, and they wanted them. So I think when they had children, they really wanted, you know, my brother and I, we both had piano lessons, and they thought that that'd be just a good skill all round.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I'm glad that I started early, I think, because I don't know, I think the older I get, the less capacity I have to soak up things. I don't know. Yeah,
tell me about it. I'm turning 30 this year, and it's like,
wow.
I'm definitely I know, thank you. Yeah. Getting old. Yeah, but I'm definitely losing well, not losing exactly, but my memory is not the same, because I remember I used to so as a guitar player, I would learn a bunch of songs, right? In my teen years, and I remember I used to know every single Metallica song, Pearl Jam, like Dream Theater, like all of those bands. And now when I try to like learn a song, it actually takes me way more time than it used to before. And I feel like like it's always good if you know, for you guys that have kids, you know, give them instruments to play when they're little.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had that luxury. Yeah, I remember my parents were trying to put me into something. I don't remember what, like some kind of instrument, but I was so stubborn. I was like, I don't want to do it. That's boring.
That's funny.
But now that I'm thinking about it, like oh my God, like I should have done it probably.
I know.
Been a lot better and easier to, you know, learn stuff.
Yeah. Well, the message is we should always listen to our parents, and they always know what's best.
Yeah. Let's see. I was gonna talk about so a lot of people who watch this are you know, beginner composers or filmmakers. What advice can you give the beginners that are just trying to get into the industry? Like how do you approach this industry at all?
I mean, I think it's probably different for everybody. I think the biggest thing that we all need, you know, I think no matter what level you are, you know, you've just opened a door for the first time, or you've just discovered
Hold on. Did you get disconnected? Wait a sec. Yeah, you're frozen. Can you hear me?
Alive all the time.
Yeah.
Are you there? Did I lose you for a minute there?
Yeah. I think the Zoom got frozen there for a second.
Oh,
okay. No. Yeah. For like 10 seconds or 20 seconds.
You froze for quite a long time, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah. You froze too. I was just like,
oh no. The wonders of the internet.
Yep, wonders of the internet. Yeah. So what are we talking about?
Advice to people just starting out. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much got cut off, but I think
pretty much everything. Yeah, you started talking and it just and went like bah. And
yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think you've just got to keep loving what you do, and don't take anything personally. And I think that goes for feedback, industry feedback, but also as a composer collaborating with a filmmaker, when you get notes, it's never personal. It's about that project rather than your training or your creative vision. And I think just learn as much as possible. I think especially nowadays when it's so easy to create chords and score something, because we have all of these fantastic sound libraries. I really love them. But very often you have a sort of textural pad and you can very quickly build something. I think it's really useful not to get hooked on that and to push yourself beyond it. Keep it in your arsenal, definitely. But also, look back at the old classics. Look at timeless films and timeless film composers, and see what you can learn from them as well.
Yeah, that's a great advice. I completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree.
Cool.
Have you ever had a problem when you were starting out, like on your first film or second film, when you would get a note back to change the whole score? Like, have you ever had a problem like that? And you would be like why me?
Yeah, a little bit. But actually, I mean, this was my very first film ever, and I didn't really know what I was doing. This was some time ago, and actually, I'd sort of organized that there was no budget. I wasn't getting paid. It was a student film, and we'd met, and I was scoring it. And I'd written music that I was really happy with, and I'd organized a recording session, and it was sort of my first ever recording session. But it it was very makeshift. I sort of asked my friend, who was sort of an amateur engineer, and he kind of set everything up for me, and in just a very echoey room that we'd booked at the university, actually. And I asked my friends, who are all musicians, to make up the ensemble, and I was really proud of it, and we'd got this recording, first ever recording, and I sent it to the director, and I just thought, he's gonna love it. It's amazing. And he came back and he said he really liked it, but he thinks he's going to stick with the MIDI mockup.
Really?
Yeah, and it's so funny because at the time I sort of got the email, and I was sort of thinking, wow, this is, firstly I was taking it personally, which I should not have done, but it was a learning experience. And I was sort of thinking as well, I don't really think this is the right decision, because live musicians always trump MIDI. But after a few days, and especially years later when I'm looking back at it now, of course I understand where he was coming from, because it wasn't a proper studio.
So the recording was bad.
It wasn't even a great recording. I hadn't mixed it because at the time I didn't know what mixing was.
Yeah.
But, you know, when he'd said this to me, I was sort of thinking, this is not the right decision. But it absolutely was. You know, I think that was kind of a learning opportunity as well to sort of realize, you know, even when you are in charge of your own music, sometimes you're not always right. And it is a collaboration. And that's what makes it so great, because somebody else can suggest something and then it'll send you off in a completely different path. And it's so much more rewarding, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I had a similar experience too when I was starting out, and then like I had a really big ego for no reason. Like, I remember, you know, I would write a piece of music, and it honestly, like, right now when I listen to it, it sucks. But at the time, I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Right? And then, and then the directors and producers, they're like, nope, you know, rewrite it, because it's just, it sucks, you know. And I'm like, what do you mean rewrite it? It's so good. Like,
exactly.
but now actually, I love getting notes and criticisms on my music. I don't know. It gives me, like, it gives me meaning in a way where, you know, I would write a piece of music and people are like, well, this is good, this can be better. And I'm like, ooh, okay. And I'll go back and I'm like, rewrite it and try to make it better. And I don't know, it actually, criticism helps a lot. You know, and I enjoy getting notes on my music. I don't know, just so, I don't know if I'm weird, but it's so satisfying getting an email where people break down your track by like seconds in a way.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's always great. And I think especially because that means that you know, you can tell that they've really been thinking about it as well, which is really great. You know, I was working on a project a couple of months ago, and the director and the showrunner kept apologizing for sending me so many notes, and it was sort of, you know, there were maybe 9 or 10 cues, so that, you know, there was a lot of music going on, but they were sort of giving me, you know, really long emails and breaking everything down. But then it was so great to have that really nitty-gritty detail, and then to have a chat about it and talk about, you know, what works and what doesn't, and which direction am I going to go in now. I agree. I think it's kind of a blessing in disguise when you get criticism, because it challenges you. You know, we don't ever want to become complacent either, because we always want to be better composers.
You always want to be a better version of yourself with every project.
Definitely.
It's always a learning experience. I mean, for me, I feel like even when I'm 80, 90, if I can survive that long, like, I will still be learning new things. And it's just, it's always good to hear other people's opinion on your music, or on music in general, to be honest. Because, you know, everybody has their little, you know, thoughts and opinions, and I don't know, it's refreshing to hear something new.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, I was talking to a director that I worked with a couple of weeks ago, and so we worked on a feature film, I don't know, like 4 years ago anyway, and we were just, you know, having like a little coffee chat, whatever, and he was talking to me about how, like, my score was great at the time when we made the film, and then, like, every time he would watch the film, like, he kept noticing little things that he's like, oh, this sounds weird. Well, that sounds kind of weird now. Like, as he was progressing in his career, he started noticing, you know, bad mixes. You know, some notes are being completely misplaced. You know, some of the cues are not on time. You know, like when there's a camera of movement, the cue is just doing completely different things. And I told him, like, well, now you know more about music, so you can actually notice, like, imperfections and, you know, bad things. And when I listened to that score, the mix was bad, because I was still starting, you know, learn how to mix and master. And you know, when you compose, you know, when you work on a film as a composer, most of the time you're doing everything. You know, like on smaller budgets, I guess. I mean, unless you are on bigger budgets, then you just compose and everybody else does the mixing and mastering and blah blah. But on the smaller budgets, you do everything, and it's it's really tough because, like, first of all, you need to figure out what kind of music you want, and to actually compose the music. But then you need to figure out the mix, and then you have to master it too. And it's just it's such a, I don't know, it's like a painful process in a way sometimes, where the time is short and you have to do it all quick, and sometimes bad mixes happen.
I think it can be really painful, because if you're the one person, you have one pair of ears listening to this thing, and it's really hard to notice discrepancies if you're just listening to it over and over again. I think that's the benefit, one of thousands, of having a mixer, or somebody else doing that part of it for you. And also, they're not going to be precious with the score as well. Whereas,
they kinda,
I think probably, they're going to sort of do what's best for the film. Whereas, I mean, obviously we will as well, but it's hard to get out of your headspace, I think, when you're doing this, the I don't know, 10 jobs on the same project. It's hard.
It is hard, definitely hard. And not a lot of people realize how hard it is to actually go from zero to the end of the project as a composer. I've sometimes, like, well, it doesn't really happen now, but about 2-3 years ago, when I would still work with student films or beginner filmmakers, and like they would just come in and they're like, okay, well, you're a composer, do your thing, here's this amount of money, and do the score in 2 days. And I'm sitting there like, wait a sec, like that's not gonna work in 2 days. Although I did have a project where I needed to write, I think, 75 minutes of almost like Disney style music for a kids film in a week.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember
that's
that was
a tall order.
Yeah, that's I didn't sleep. Wow. I was just like, just doing it.
Did you get it done?
I got it done. Yeah, I got it done.
Wow, well done.
I like not to listen to that score because it's like PTSD.
Yeah.
It's like if I hear the notes. Yeah, if I hear the notes, I'm like, oh my God, like everything just comes back. I was just sitting there like, I gotta finish it.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Yeah, I think probably the further we get into our careers as well, like the less we want to listen to the things that we wrote at the beginning, because I feel like film composers progress so quickly, and we have a style, but that style does change. And
definitely. Yeah.
It's interesting looking back and then thinking, oh, I would have done that so differently now. It's a tough listen.
It definitely is. Do you let's talk about that, the business side of composing, right? So do you work with the agent, or are you independent?
No, I'm independent.
Okay.
But I sort of like that because, I really enjoy just going to film festivals or, other events and just chatting with people, talking about film, which is something that we all love. I think it's nice to be free and to make your own connections. But it is, the business side of it is something that we can't forget, because we're doing all of these things with the composer, orchestrator, mixer, master, but also we're PR and the marketing agent and our own agent, and there is a lot of extra things that you have to consider. I mean, it's all worth it, and I think it's interesting to see how, I suppose, sort of different business trends change over time. But there's a lot that that you have to consider.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a lot of elements in this. When you think about starting your career as a composer, you kind of think of, okay, so I'm gonna write music for films and that's it. But no, there's like, for me, like half of my day is sometimes emails and phone calls, and it takes a long time, and then you're meeting with people, discussing different things with different people. And it's interesting. Actually, I spoken to John Powell you know, the composer. He lives not far away from here.
Right.
About a year and a half ago, because my friend used to work as a assistant. Well, he's assistant, and I've spoken to him, and I'm like, well, okay, so you know, he's a big composer, huge, right?
Yeah.
And I asked him this simple question because I only had about 30 seconds to speak to him. And I'm like, how much time do you spend a day doing business stuff as a composer?
Yeah.
And he's like that's like 80% of his work. Wow. Just doing business stuff, because you know there's a lot of different elements happening, and 20% is actually making music, which is interesting. And you know, like the more I talk to bigger composers, you know, that they're doing, you know, bigger things, it's like business actually takes a long chunk of your day, which I didn't really think it would when I was starting out, to be honest. Like
definitely.
You know, I thought like, okay, you're a composer, you're gonna find an agent, and agent manager is gonna just do the whole thing. But no, it's like you have to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think I see quite a lot of young composers, you know, asking other people, at what point should I get an agent? You know, and I think it's interesting that lots of people when they're younger just sort of think that that's the way that things progress, and that's how you're going to get gigs and how you're going to you know, get on with your career. I suppose some people think it's a little bit like acting, you know, but it's different, isn't it? I mean, all of the elements of the film industry, we all have a different path, and it's sort of slightly parallel but not really. And I think really the bottom line is there's no clear path to follow anyway. And everyone's going to do it slightly differently.
Yeah, that was my thinking too when I started out. Like, I definitely thought that, okay, I need an agent ASAP, but then you know, as I started actually making money with it, I'm like, oh, wait a second, like, you know, I think it's better to just do independent. And you know, the time to get an agent is when the agent finds you. I feel like sometimes, or like the manager or whatever. Like I always tell people, don't be, you know, walking around and looking for managers, because you can manage your stuff, and then when you actually need it, they will find you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's always agents that are like looking for people that are actually working, and they need help in a way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But so that's talking about film and stuff. I actually work with an agent, but for trailers and promos and advertising.
Oh, interesting.
So I think that's a little different. You know, have you worked on like advertisements or anything like commercials or anything like that?
No, I've been working with a group of music supervisors, you know, with licensing for commercials, but I haven't scored anything. I haven't done a spot outright. I haven't done trailers either. I'd love to do that, because I think that's sort of a different art form in itself. It's
a
really
totally
cool.
different world. I mean, I got into trailers 2 years ago, and I don't have that many placements, just a few, but still, it's like it's such a different world, to be honest. It's more it's more about the mix and the master over there rather than your like music. In a way. So I remember my thinking was, okay, trailers, so you have to, you know, do this kind of music. And I was thinking the trailers from early 2000s, and now they're completely different. Now it's all about like, what kind of sound can you make? It's almost as you are a sound designer more than you're a composer. Yeah. So it's totally different world. I would recommend, you know, you check it out. You know, try it out. It's cool. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think it's interesting as well. Like sometimes I'll hear a trailer and there'll be a remix of or an edit of a song.
Oh yeah, they do that a lot.
With like a drone underneath it or something. And it is interesting. I think you're right. It's a sound, isn't it, that they're going for, and an atmosphere.
Yeah, and you know, most of the trailer music companies, they have like different notes that they give you to, like comparing to, you know, film scoring. With film scoring, it's all about the emotions of the cue. But you know, with trailers, it's all about the power and, you know, the rise and stuff like that, like the sound design is completely different. Yeah, which brings the topic. Do you ever think that you will do something else apart from composing?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Probably not.
No?
I think
stick to it?
I think so. I mean, it's interesting. I think sometimes it depends what's going on, you know, it depends what's going on in my life. And the underlying thing is I just really love what I do. I also like the idea of teaching film music as well. You know, I think mentoring and teaching people starting out, I think I would like to get into that at some point.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think as well, you know, there are so many people trying to get into it right now, and I'd really love to sort of give them a really good foundation of, you know, I mean, I don't have all the answers, but you know, I'd really like to be involved in sort of shaping the next generation. But yeah, I mean, I'm not thinking about, you know, becoming a vet anytime soon or something like that. You know, it's definitely film music is in my future.
Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah, stick to your guns, you know. If you love what you do, just stick to it. Yeah. I mean, for me too, I'm definitely sticking to music, anything music. Like, you know, I switch up between film music, composing, I'm not composing, like film music, trailer music, and then, you know, I'll do other game music, and then I'll do something else with music, and I'll record my own stuff. So yeah, it's like anything there is with music, I'm sticking to it. Because there's so many different paths as a musician or a composer you can take. You know, there's, like you don't have to stick to like only film scoring. You can, you know, basically what's the word, rebranch. There you go, like you can you can start so many different paths in music, and every path is different, every path is difficult, but it's definitely fulfilling. Like once you know that feeling when you finish a project and then you're like, yes, you know, and it doesn't matter what project is it, small, big, whatever. I don't know, I always get like really excited, you know, when I'm like, I'm done with it, yay, you know, like here, you know, I can listen to it and forget about it for a long time.
So do I. It's great, isn't it? And then having that sort of final discussion with the filmmaker, and you know, kind of going through it and just being proud of it and pleased with, you know, going through everything. And it's so satisfying when you finish a project and just, you know you've done a good job, and then the excitement of moving on to the next thing as well.
How do you approach like looking for a project? You know, what do you do to find new work? Because, you know, there's you know, our world is pretty saturated. There's a lot of people that are competing for the same things, especially right now since nothing is being done. Like, what's your approach to it?
Honestly, I just talk to people. I strike up conversations, you know, friends of friends, or actually I definitely during COVID, you know, being back in England, I haven't been able to, well, I mean, obviously no one really has, but, you know, I haven't been out and about, but I definitely haven't been out and about in New York. So I sort of felt like I was missing out on that part of my life. But it's interesting because quite a lot of things went online. So I've been, you know, chatting with people online, and that's been really great because finding new connections. And actually, interestingly enough, you know, even online, circles aren't that big, you know. You run into people that, you know, you went to the same school, or, oh wow, you know this person. And so I sort of ended up working with a few people actually that sort of have come from the same place that I have, but we were just there at different times and we never met.
Interesting.
But yeah, I think just talking to people and getting to know, you know, the things that they like, their vision for the film, their influences, and just having that conversation really leads into, I guess, just getting excited about a project and about working together. So that's pretty much, I just talk to people.
Talking to people. Yeah. Well, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I do too. Just reach out to people either online or, well, now it's only online because I rarely get out of the house now. But before, I know. Yeah. Obviously everybody gets it. Before COVID, I would go to like festivals and conventions and so, it's funny. Sometimes I would go to like Starbucks or something, but I feel like that only, I mean, maybe not only, but it works in LA. Since I don't know what it is about me in Starbucks when I'm by myself sitting at a table.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just come up to me. They're like, "Oh, dude, like, why do you have long hair?" And then the person that's like asking me, like, they're like filmmaker. They're like, "Oh, you look like a musician." And I'm like, "Okay, yes, I am a musician." And like, I had actually a couple of gigs like that people just randomly came up to me on the street. And they're like, "Okay, you look," they're just like, "Okay, you look like a musician. We need a musician. Like, we need the score for the film." I'm like, "I got you." You know,
that's really great though.
Yeah.
Wow. But how do I look more like a musician? That sounds like a really good way to get gigs.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. For me, it's just like, I guess it's the long hair that gives me away in a way. But also, I mean, I can be just a random person. But somehow, like the world just works like this. You know, sometimes you meet people at random locations, and you know they could be like your next filmmaker that you work with.
Definitely.
Yeah, but you definitely need to be out there. Yeah.
I think so, yeah. And I think, you know, one of the things I really learned is just, you know, put yourself forward for as much as you can and say yes to as many things as you can. You know, I've definitely, I think as well, don't be, you know, don't cut down something just because you think, oh, it's not going to go anywhere, because you don't know, you know, a very brief conversation with one person. Yeah, I mean, I was at a festival in October of last year, and I sort of got talking to somebody at the end, but I'd already booked an Uber. So it was coming, and I was sort of chatting, and you know, we were really getting on, and she just said, "Oh no, you've got to get your Uber. It's okay." And you know, I felt really terrible, but we sort of exchanged information.
Yeah.
And then, what month was it? You know, probably about 10 or 11 months later, during COVID, she contacted me and asked me if I could score her film. You know, and I think just the tiniest connections can really grow into something.
Yeah. Like that's what I do too. Like I always have my business cards ready just in case, and because you never know who you're gonna meet, you know, at random places. And
definitely.
Yeah, it happened to me too, where I would give somebody my business card at a festival, and then like 2 years later they contact me. I'm like, "Oh, nice." And
that's the thing, that's like there's no expiration date on it.
Yeah. Just making connections, you know, making friends, and you never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a nice way of looking at it as well. The you know, the making friends, because I'm sure it's the same with you, but I think more often than not, I'll, you know, make friends with the people I work with, because we're sort of creatively on the same wavelength. We'll be, you know, spending so much time together. And it sort of becomes this thing. I mean, it's always work, but you know, we love what we do, and it's sort of work, but not work. But you know, when you're friends with the filmmaker, it's really great. And then obviously, you know, you're more likely to work with them again in the future and create something else great again. And I think just be as positive as possible. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, I'm friends with most of the directors that I worked with, and I mean, we like hang out on a regular basis. It's I mean, it's kind of like making friends at your workspace in a way.
Yeah.
You know, because you spend so much time together on a film, and you know, you have a lot of things to talk about and a lot of things you share. So why not be friends?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all doing the same thing. We've all come from that same place of, you know, wanting to do this crazy job.
No, it is a crazy job. Yeah,
it is. It's great though.
I know, and it's always funny how, like for example, my family, you know, when I told them, okay, I'm a composer, and then you know, I started posting my credits everywhere, and you know, like I worked on this film, and suddenly they're like, oh my God, he's a millionaire now.
Oh,
like,
really?
no, wait.
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It's so funny how a lot of people have this misunderstanding that if you work on a film, that means you know, you're super rich, and but in reality, it's such a feast or famine job. To be honest, it's
definitely
it's not stable. You know, you have to literally always, like, you finish a project and then you don't know what's going to happen next. Like, you always have to keep looking for new projects over and over and over, you know? Oh, did we get frozen again?
Yeah. No, I still heard you actually.
Oh, okay,
Am I still
perfect. Yeah,
I could hear you. I could hear you. Yeah, I think it's interesting because it's almost an addiction, I think. That, you know, constant looking for the next gig, the next fix, and it's interesting. I also think it's a little bit of a problem, this kind of idea that younger people have, you know, that they want to be a film composer, and they think that means that they're going to immediately be Hans Zimmer or John Williams, or basically this very, you know, wealthy, successful kind of celebrity composer. You know, and that might happen, and that would be great, but you know, it's about the, you know, what you're doing rather than this, you know, maybe fame or maybe the wealth that'll come with it. You know, none of us are doing this for the money.
We all do it for love of and then for fun. I mean, I'm definitely doing it for fun.
Definitely,
it's like, you know, my thinking is, even on a worst day, I'm still making music, which is like the favorite thing for me to do. You know, so
absolutely,
so you have to do it for fun, and then money is like, I mean, obviously you have to keep eating and, you know, be able to pay rent and, you know, do stuff, but you know, definitely it's I would always say that, you know, don't think of it as a job that's going to make you a lot of money. Like, think of it as a job that's going to make you happy in life. And then money might come, might not come. It's just it's all about, I don't know. I'm all about this, like, mental health and happiness, and you know, whatever makes you happy, just stick to it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know, as creative people, that feeds back into our work as well. You know, if we're taking care of ourselves mentally, you know, then we're fresher and we're able to put everything into our work. And that's sort of a great cycle, I think, because, you know, if that's definitely something that, I mean, all freelancers have to work out. You know, they have to work out a work-life balance, and you know, make sure that you're staying sane. Because then, you know, if not, you're going to suffer, but also your work is going to suffer, and you know, it's a lose-lose situation.
Definitely. Right, let's see, what time is it now? I'm thinking, this was a great discussion. I feel like it's time to wrap it up. Do you have any final thoughts you want to, you know, tell people?
I don't know. I think just, you know, watch as many films as you can, listen to as much music as you can. Also expand out of the mainstream. You know, look at black and white and silent film and political films and foreign language films, because obviously English is not the only language out there, and there are some really wonderful films that are available. And just keep exploring and keep learning and keep enjoying what you're doing.
That's great advice. Okay, where can people find you?
They can find me. I'm on Instagram. That's probably the best place. So that's Aurelie Webb Music. And then you can also find me on Facebook. And through both of them, you can find my website as well. So all three of them have pretty much the same information. And but yeah, just feel free to reach out if you want to talk about anything or ask any advice or yeah, really happy to help if I can. And always happy to have a conversation about film music, of course.
Yeah, this was we had a really great conversation. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah. No, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for, coming. This was great.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going off, and I'll put all of your links in the description in the video.
Great.
Yeah, so hopefully, hope everybody has a good day, and this has been BlastCast episode 8. See ya.
Bye.